Good morning. My name is Chris Adam with Youth Pleasure Employers, and I'm delighted to be joined by Martin, a director at Norfolk Ceilings and Interiors. Hello there, Martin.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for giving up your time to speak to me. I'm sure that you've got, 107 other things to be doing, so I do appreciate it. And I guess my starter for 10 question really has to be: can you tell us about Norfolk Ceilings and Interiors and what it is you do?
Yeah, very simple, really. We kind of, it says on the tin, it's mainly suspended ceilings, partitions, interior fit outs, plastering, dry lining, metal stud partitions, glazed partitions, flooring, decoration, that kind of thing. It's a pretty mixed bag. But yeah, I think the interiors banner within our company name does kind of, cover most things.
Yeah, I think usually when I ask people that question, sometimes as I say, they struggle with how to concisely explain what their business actually does. Whereas, as you say, it is in the name, and that makes things a lot easier. And what kind of roles and people do you have within the organisation to facilitate all of the different processes you just cited there?
Yeah, myself, I kind of look after the estimating and the contract side. So we'll get a lot of inquiries generated through our website, through word of mouth, through reputation. We've been running for 13 and a half years. Myself and Rob have been in the trade an awful long time, more years than I'd probably care to remember. But we kind of we'll get inquiries in, so I'll entertain the original inquiry. We'll price a job. If we win the job, it'll then go to we will then get our materials sorted out, which is what the office team will sort materials and labour to site. We've obviously got our own operatives that will go to sites, install suspended ceilings, partitions, the like, and then our office staff will then sort the invoicing out. So it's just kind of a small chain of events, really, from inquiry to winning the job to meeting the client to getting the job done to invoicing the job. And most of the jobs that we do are fairly quick turnarounds, sometimes a few days, maybe a few weeks. Sometimes we have longer ones that run several months. But probably as a rule, most of our jobs are in and out within a few days. And we cover all over East Anglia as well. So plenty of travelling. You see lots of the countryside. So there's no 2 days are really ever the same.
That's really interesting to hear, and I like the fact you've touched on and sort of explained a little bit of the process, as you say there, from giving the quote to getting the materials to a state to getting the job done. And if we look at some of the sort of skills, how to put it, that the different. So if we look at your site operatives, some of the skills that they require. Obviously, there's certain, there's practical skills that go without saying to do the job they do. But what kind of sort of soft skills and character traits do they need to show on a daily basis when they're out and about doing these kind of jobs?
Yeah, I think we again, like I said earlier, we're kind of a mixed bag. So we do it. There's a lot of labouring work. A lot of it is quite heavy duty labouring. Some plasterboards can be really heavy. Some of the ceiling tiles and components we use are quite heavy. So there is an element of kind of hard graft to that as well. Unloading lorries, taking them into buildings. Cleaning up. Putting scaffolds up, that kind of thing. Mobile towers more than the static ones. And then it's kind of, we then have a skill set where we have carpenters, we have decorators, we'll have floor layers, partition fixers, ceiling fixers, dry liners, which is taping and jointing as well. So there's quite a few different trades, and quite a number of our lads, although they might only be, say, identify as one trade in terms of what their qualification is, they can multitask, and a lot of the time they do pick up other useful trades as they go. You can be like a ceiling fixer, and then you can also do some carpentry work, maybe some plaster and drying. A lot of our lads will kind of multitask between several different trades, and I think we're quite unique in some respects because not many people might necessarily not know what a ceiling fixer is. It sounds very obvious, but they wouldn't necessarily know because there's different types of ceilings that can go up. Whereas a traditional trade, if you ask the average person in public to name you some building trades, the chances are you'll get bricklayer, carpenter, plasterer, electrician, plumber. They're the kind of main ones. Not many people will turn around and say ceiling fixer, partition fixer, or dry liner. So we're kind of like, if you like, quite obscure. So I think that also as well is sometimes gives us the slight problem where maybe not that many people actually come into our trade. And that can be a good thing in some senses for people that are in our trade, because there's not a massive amount of competition. So it's kind of like, some of our trades are a bit obscure, and I think that's sometimes where we do struggle a little bit to find operatives.
And I'm guessing you spoke there about, obviously, as you say, some of the younger people in who maybe they've only got trade experience or practical experience in, let's say, whether it be carpentry or a specific area. I take it you're wanting people come into the business to have a willingness to learn, to have a good work ethic. So as you say, that when they get exposure to these other trades that they probably wouldn't have been familiar with or even heard of, so that they can, as I say, they can sort of take them on, learn with them, and as I say, and help grow the organisation. As you say, especially if maybe recruitment is an issue, when people do come in, as you say, you want them to be willing, wanting to learn. And is that something you usually find in people coming into the business?
Yeah, I think I'll speak for myself. I actually started out in this trade many years ago in the early 90s, and I was actually a bricklayer, and I didn't enjoy bricklaying mainly because I realised pretty quickly that you lose a lot of days for the weather, yeah, whether it be too wet, no, the temperatures, low temperatures. And I realized pretty soon that I'm going to spend probably a lot of my time not working. So I looked at the interior stuff and thought, no, I can, I'd much rather go into that. You lose an awful a lot less days. And I kind of started as a labourer. So I drove the van. I started to unload plasterboard, ceiling tiles. I then started to watch what the ceiling fixers were doing, ask questions, started to put just tiles in, doing the basics, clearing up, tidying up, that kind of thing. And pretty quickly, knowing my way around, most tools on a building site, it was quite quick and easy for me to learn. I then got put through qualifications with my employer at the time and my MVQ, and become a ceiling fixer. And I found it quite straightforward and quite a comfortable trade. It's quite a nice, easy trade, I think, to get involved with. It's you see a finished product at the end, which it's quite nice to see at the end. You've worked on a job for a week. You look up, you see a nice new ceiling all put in, nice and neat and tidy, and hopefully all nice and level. And and you can walk away and say, hey, I did that. So it's kind of, you get a bit of job satisfaction. But like I said, it's then you do a bit of labouring with that as well, because you'll unload the van, you put the materials up, you'll clear up afterwards. So there's an element of the labouring side as well, which there's lots of good pluses for that. It's active, it can keep you fit. And although the health and safety is a very important thing about what we do, we have to paramount that every site we go on, no matter how big or how small, will always be our risk assessments and method statements in place to make sure we've got a safe means to work. But there's also we have a bit of fun while we're doing it. A lot of our operatives are quite young. They do have I think a bit of fun at work. It's not all fun as you go, as long as the work done. But I think because you're indoors, often in groups of 2 or 3, you're seeing different areas, you're meeting lots of new people. It can be a real fun thing to do as well.
And I think you've actually touched on a sort of a core area there, which is probably something where a lot of people getting into sort of construction-based trades don't think about, because they think about sort of the practical things of like, I think I'd like to do a job where I'm good with my hands, and this is where my skill set lies. But as you say there's a lot of bonding around it, a lot of traveling, meeting new people, and as I say, I think those are things that a lot of people who've been in the sector for a while, like yourself, will realize actually these are some of the best parts of my job, before you even, as I say, get to the satisfaction of, as you say, seeing a brilliantly installed level ceiling above you as well. And are there any sort of other parts of the role where people might think like they wouldn't realize that actually, oh, this is something I'm really going to enjoy? We're actually, whether it's off your own experience or with the people you currently employ, that you think actually that's a really enjoyable part of the role as well.
Yeah, I think it's a sociable thing as well. I've made an awful lot of friends from the colleagues and people I've worked with, and it's a kind of trade that I don't know many people that kind of come into this trade and then disappear out of it again. They often stay in, and that I think that's a sign that a lot of people will come into this sometimes a bit like me, almost via a mistake. It was kind of, I didn't want to do bricklaying. I went, I knew the chap who had the company. He employed me as a labourer, and I kind of, as I went, I thought, hey, I quite enjoy this. There's a fun element to it, and plus as well, you also mix all the other trades. So every suspended ceiling, there's normally lights to go in that. There could be smoke alarms. There's air conditioning units to go in that as well. So you have to liaise with many other trades as well. So it's not just you're very isolated in just your own little team. You obviously expand, and a lot of the time we deal with an awful lot of other trades and people and other companies. So again, you build up a network of friends, and obviously work colleagues, And yeah, I think as much as the job, it's also there's a sociable side to it as well.
And touching on that networking and variety that you've said there, I ask this question to all the employers I speak to, and I know there's no such thing as a typical day. And you've touched on it earlier that no 2 days are the same. But as I say, if you maybe had to sort of give us an idea of what the good days look like within the role and what the challenging days look like, what do they look like?
Yeah, I think from what I've said earlier that sometimes you get to see lots of different parts of the country. We do travel further than East Anglia, but the average day is kind of going to the yard in the van, loading up with the materials that you need for that given day. And if I pick a day where maybe we're just going to do one suspended ceiling and one small shop, so we'll take the materials in, we'll go to the shop, we'll get parked up, unload the van. You get 2 or 3 breaks during the day as well. Put the suspended ceiling up, clear up, come home, and you've had a reasonably, I feel, quite straightforward day. Nothing too exhausting in terms of anything too heavy. A down day could be where sometimes you go to a site and something's not ready. You might go in and get the materials in. You could be in a very busy high street. The lorry's turned up with the materials later than it should have done. You might be bang on 9 o'clock in the morning. You've got people bibbing at you in the street because your lorry's blocking up at an entrance, or it could be that it's just holding traffic up because there's not a lot of room to park, and you're the one getting the grief of members of the public. So there are downsides to it. Other jobs where again you might go to put a ceiling up and you put the ceiling up at the height that you want to, or you've been told to. Someone will come in and say, oh, actually, we've got to put this bit of equipment in. There's not enough room between the ceiling and the main soffit. You're going to have to take it down, and they'll argue that it's your fault, and you'll say, no, I've followed the drawing or the instructions I've been given. So there can be a few things, like we all know, the building trade, with lots of different moving parts and other companies and trades involved in the process. Sometimes you can come against problems. We tend to not really have that many problems, and we're quite a laid back kind of company that if there's a problem, we meet it head on. But that's really the responsibility of myself and Rob, as owners of the business, to go and sort those problems out. We always say to our lads, look, you don't need to get involved in any of the politics. You just go in, you turn up on time, you have your breaks, you go home on the time you're supposed to, get the job done, and move on to the next one. And we deal with all the little bits in between. If they do go wrong or there's something to discuss, then obviously that's something we can do behind the scenes. But most of our lads have worked with us now for quite a number of years. And again, we kind of keep the same crews because they tend to enjoy what they do. And listen, the pay is pretty good. It's a reasonable sort of rate of pay. So again, that's why you keep people in the trade, I think. And like I said, I find it a nice, clean, easy trade, or trades, to be involved in. A lot of the stuff that we do lovely new fit outs. So sometimes it'll be a blank canvas and all of a sudden we'll turn up and we'll put new walls in, some lovely glazing, some nice new doors, a nice new ceiling. Sometimes we decorate it as well, new floor. And when you walk out, you step back and go, wow, that looks really, really good. And the client's pleased, that you've done it for a good price. And I just feel that there's a real satisfaction at the end of that you've had something over that someone's really happy with, and then you build up those relationships, and more often than not, we get an awful lot of repeat business.
You paint it as a profession with a lot more behind it than people would think, if you see what I mean. I mentioned to you before we started recording that the purpose of these talks is to explore what the job actually is behind the job advert. And as you said there, sometimes people might not have seen the job advert or sort of know the role exists. Whereas you say you paint a role of sort of, as I say, sort of satisfaction, variety, as I say, whether it's, in the work you're doing or the people you're mixing with. And even on those, to say, challenging days, as you said there, well, there's a hierarchy in place to, to ensure protection. But also, I guess on those days as well, as you said, if you're pairing people up with people who they get along with as well, and as I say, there's delays or troubles in your work, well, that's why you've got some of your some of your buddies on site to help you through the day as well and support one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, no 2 days are really ever the same. We might be on the same job for a number of time, but there's always different elements of the job. And again, a lot of the jobs that we do are quick turnaround. And we're a team. you know, it's not that you work with the same person every day. Sometimes you might be working with a carpenter, then you'll be working with a plasterer, then you might be working with someone who's doing the labouring on the job. So again, it's kind of, we move our lads around quite regular, and again, they all got their own different skill sets. So we're kind of a part of a team of 15. Obviously, we've also got an office side, not just site based. I mean, we're based obviously in Great Yarmouth. I work from home quite a bit as well, but when I come here, I've got Dan who looks after our ordering. He's our buyer and purchaser. We've got Pepper that looks after our accounts and runs our office. We've got Rob, say the contracts manager, and between the four of us, we kind of run everything. And again, there's also possibly some opportunity there as well to even work on the office and admin side. So it's not just about the site stuff, because obviously there's a lot of work goes in to prepare for the site stuff. Yes, we need a lot of operatives to install and be on site to labour and carry out all the tasks that we need to do. But at the same time, we need a team behind that to actually, price that work, to win that work, and then obviously to facilitate that work and look after the clients as well. But most of our operatives do have a very hands-on kind of almost supervisionary skills with them as well, where they look after the jobs that they're on, because we can't be on every job on every single day. I think at the moment we've got something like, I think around about 30 jobs live. Some might only be a few hours, some might be weeks, some might be months, but to get around 30 jobs, it's impossible to do. So our kind of lads, they manage themselves and they speak to the clients, and so they have a responsibility there as well to kind of forge a link. And they're our face on site, and they get on with our clients really well. And again, that's something that we really pride ourselves on, is our customer care.
And again, that's possibly a part words that's possibly a side of the role where actually, as I say, some people coming into it might not actually expect it to be such a priority when as it should be. But if you see what I mean, as I say, some people maybe come into these kind of roles and I just think like, as I say, I'm going to get my experience, going to develop my skills in the trade, whereas you say they're not going to realize how much they're going to develop personally, their customer service skills, their communication skills, their ability to build rapport with people. Whereas you say, working with different people on different days, dealing with different customers and different requirements is going to hone those skills very naturally over time.
Oh, 100%. It's not just about turning up to do that one specific job that you're going to do. There'll be an awful lot more to it. It could be sometimes we give the numbers to our clients. Obviously, if they're okay with that, give Mr. Smith a ring when you're 10 minutes away, because he's somewhere else and he'd like 10 minutes warning. So our boys will phone him 10 minutes before, and they'll just really carry out everything that we ask them to do. Sometimes we will take that ourselves and say, look, we'll sort that. But no, it's a real question of letting our lads really kind of, do a bit more than just the basic kind of turn up to do the job. We ask them to sort of, to manage themselves, look after our clients well. It's very, very important to do that. And again, from even picking up materials and running stuff around, and they do have to think outside the box sometimes, and just turning up. Sometimes some jobs can be very robotic and very, the same every day. I don't think ours are ever, 2 days are ever the same with us. So there's lots of variety and lots of different places to see, and lots of challenges. We often get asked to do all sorts of weird and wonderful things in the building trade, make stuff out of plasterboard, metal, all very funky stuff with ceilings and everything else, and designs and little features. And we always find that a real challenge, and we'll try anything. We'll give anything a go, provided we've got the drawings and the kind of detail from our clients. We're never shy to really push ourselves and try to design and build something really sort of extravagant sometimes. So there's lots and lots of different sort of strings to our bow, and like I said, it's kind of very, very diverse in what we do.